What is up everyone, this is Shirei talking, welcome back to my channel. On today's video, I'll be making a full review of the last 6 styles released in Romancing SaGa ReUniverSe. They were given out for free, 6 protagonists from all arcs. Well, this brings memories. I want to start talking about Polka. Well, he's fire support type, he uses words and fire element. As you can see, he's in hybrid and suffers a little from it. We have only 113% SGR and 108 intelligence, and 100% endurance and 105% will, just enough alongside his dexterity and agility also being on average levels. Well, on the start of a turn, he grants nullify heat to himself, so heat damage will be negated. And then he grants all surviving allies 3 times battle hard. There is no turn limit. And it activates the following up to 3 times. Attack boost to itself, that will increase damage potential by 30% for that turn only. So if your character has multiple attacks or chases, you're gonna see it on the subsequent hits. Will also self-buff SGR, Dexterity, Agility, and Intelligence, all the offensive status by 20%. Will cast defense boost that decreases damage taken by 20%. And then end of turn 2 BP recovery. And end of turn OG gauge up of 25 points. So the good thing about this is that you can trigger 3 times the end of turn OG gauge. And all the other effects are nice and all, but this can actually serve you as a way to reach overdrive. But now, you have to use Battle Heart again with Sucho's Flight. That is his 3rd skill. But it gives Battle Heart only 1 time. Yeah, so you will not be able to trigger it 3 times every turn, only once. So an attack boost of 30%, a defense boost of 20%, and then 20% buffs to offensive status, 2 BP, and 25 points of OG Gauge. But then you can also select 1 target that will get extra 3 times. You should choose your damage dealer, of course, because this one will actually just become stronger by means of attack boost, status buff, and overdrive has special gimmicks like extra attacks on overdrive. Also, when using skill 2 or skill 3, skill 2 is Spirit of Unity. It supports our allies, can only use it once, and will grant then all offensive defensive skill 6. This will increase damage by 40% and reduce damage taken at all times by 30%. So you're giving them an extra defensive layer and offensive layer too. When you use any of those 2 skills, you can trigger the additional effects that will recover Polka's BP by 3. That's important so that he can keep casting. He will also give him a defense boost that decreases damage taken by 30% for 2 turns and stacks. A guard up large, this one will not stack but decreases damage taken by 35, and buffs endurance, will, love, and charisma. So he wants to become better defensively to stay alive, but he will not be doing much damage. You can say that this Polka was designed similarly to the last Bygone. Anyway, end of turn, if he is dead, he will revive with 2000 HP unless he was poisoned. On the start of a turn, he will also buff all status for everyone by 20% every turn, then 15% attack boost, and then 5 stacks of heat up of 10%, so 65% total at the end of the road. When attack damage will be reduced by 40% at all times, and by the end of a turn, he recovers HP by around 1,500. The other skill that he has access to is a 1 BP skill, that is single foe, slash and hit, and cast guard up small. Terrible, don't use it. So you only want to use his skill number 3, and it's easy to do so because he actually has 6 BP per turn every time, because of 3 by the end of a turn and 3 when casting. And on the start of a fight, he also gets some extra via the 3 triggers, and he will always get 2 when casting the skill. Meaning that at worst case scenarios you get 8, but on the start of a fight you get 12. So you're probably gonna have some BP battery via other external source, and it will help Polka get extra BP. I don't think that Polka is that good. And we have characters like, for example, Misty, Minstrel, and other characters like even Bygone that can increase the damage potential of someone by way too much. Polka can actually inherit something interesting from his last premium style, this one here, that will give him Indomitable Will for the party, That is a 20% damage increase at all times, and when HP is full, it will increase damage potential by 40, and when HP is not full, reduces damage taken by 25. And will also grant all other surviving allies an HP revival when you get killed once. So that's an interesting inheritance that you can send to this Polka. It's the only one that actually makes sense, to be honest. All the other ones are actually made for damage. So this Polka is full support, and he just wants to cast Sucho's Flight. Is that good enough? No. Sadly, Polka will end on a sad note. I think that he can work, but considering that our characters now do way too much, a character that do not do damage kind of suffers. He would receive it a 3.5 grade if we were doing our grading system. Moving to the next one, Liz. Liz is a bow user of the cold element, and she needs an elemental weapon. We have 88% endurance and 98% will. Those are terrible values. That's because they are not buffing these styles in global. We were never getting this type of values anymore. And she has 110% dexterity, but 121% intelligence. A little better than Polka. Agility is on the mid-range. Now, she is actually a bow specialist made for Remembrance fight. Yeah, super strange that Liz, a protagonist, was made like this. All ranged and ranged attacks will be increased by 40%. When she's attacked, damage will be reduced by 30%. And then it increases damage with pulse all time by 30%. If she resists the damage taken, she decreases by 40, and then she has 37% chance to evade a resisted attack. On the start of battle, she will nullify cold damage for the whole fight, and will also grant all surviving allies this Azure Bow stance. So, when equipped with bows, activates the following. An attack boost of 50% that lasts for 2 turns and stack, reaching 100% on turn 2 onwards. A defense boost that decreases damage taken by 20% for 2 turns and stacks. Ailment resistance buff of extreme effect. This also stacks and cannot be removed. Recovers 4 BP, and also will recover all surviving allies HP by 400 or so. But here it's something pretty interesting. It is all surviving allies. So each one of your characters that uses bow will trigger this effect. 4 very small healings are equal to 1 small healing. At total, you'll be healing around 2000 HP per turn with Liz, doing nothing. That's fine. And she still gives way too much BP for bow squads. It's super hard to make a bow squad without thinking about Remembrance, so that's the limitation of the character. Now, when she attacks with all range or ranged attacks, she will grant herself an attack boost that improves damage potential by 30% for 3 turn stacks, and will also be buffing her dexterity and intelligence by 20%. Will also grant all enemies defense down of large effect. That will decrease their defenses by 40% for 3 turns, and will also stack. That's big. Will also debuff all enemies' endurance and will by 15%. And there's more. We actually have to check her skills to understand. She has 2 very powerful ones. Vertical Splash. That is an indirect column attack with cold and pierce damage. She attacks 2 times with the power, and will grant herself an attack boost that improves her damage potential by 15% for 2 turns and stack. 2 times the power will be very similar to double S or triple S power attack. She also has horizontal splash shots. This attack here is the same, but instead of column, it's roll based, and instead of magical, it is bow based. And same thing, 9 BP cost for 2 hits of the power, that also gives an attack boost of 15% for 2 turns and stack. What is she going to do? When she activates 1, she just duplicates the attack. That's right. So 4 hits total of the power. And this was made, of course, for you to fight versus Remembrance fights, like the Hana Water fight and Road Blocker, or any other later. That's it, but there's also more. First skill, Water Dragon Ice Crystal. It's an AoE cold and pierce attack that can only be used once, and will grant all surviving allies maximum voltage. This triggers 5 hit ups of 30%. Crazy, huh? You are giving maximum voltage, something that was a passive and this past year was very common, but whoa, you are giving 150% damage increase for everyone by turn 5 onwards. So you are getting a lot of things for Remembrance. You're gonna get extra damage, you're gonna get extra defensive support, extra BP battery, extra HP recover, and extra damage debuff buff from Liz. Liz is amazing as she is for Remembrance. Still does not beat the Liz that was used for hard content because of her Dragon Knight's Barrier and Dragon's Blessing here and there alongside buffs and all, because she is a character that can be used in all types of content. But Remembrance, oh my gosh, you're gonna use this one totally. And there is no need of inheritance, but if you really want, you can use Maximum Voltage first, and then you can still use Dragon Knight's Barrier or Dragon's Blessing to use her as a full support if your other characters are doing enough damage. She's also the best one to stun World Blocker because she has Dragon's Frenzy from her Robin style. She can also use Kanatsu Water Wall to trigger defense boosts. And that's it. I think that Liz will be amazing for everyone wanting to finish Remembrance battle before it ends. It will be a 5 out of 5 for Remembrance and 3 out of 5 for any other content since it's so hard to build both squads. Moving to Lynn. Lynn is a damage dealer and a heavy one. 140% dexterity with 110% endurance and 101% will are just safe values for a damage dealer. His agility doesn't really matter. When attacked, damage will be reduced by 30% and then again by 30%. He has 20% damage potential at all times, and when using single target attacks, it improves by another 80%. He also has weak maximum voltage that gives him 50% damage increase versus weak targets for a total of 200% increase versus weak targets on turn 4 onwards. Starts the fight with 15 BP, has 6 BP per turn, and at the end of every 7 turns, counting from the start of battle, he restores the usage of Assault Reload. But what is Assault Reload? That is the second skill. Support, and can use it once until you can actually trigger it on turn 7. Grants the user bullets to the future 6 times. He will grant himself on the start of every next turn the following: Extra Force, Blunt Medium. This will increase the blunt damage potential by 50% after the end of the calculation. Will grant himself a follow-up called 6 Bullets. 6 Bullets, it's a single target attack with 6 hits of E-Power. Well, it's very similar to one of Kihachi's 8 hit attacks because guns do more damage with low powered attacks. Then he also going to grant all enemies weak marker versus blunt. So if you land blunt damage, they will get the blunt defense down of 10% that lasts for 2 turns and will stack multiple times because he attacks multiple times. That's it. So you use it, and then you have these special effects for 6 turns, and then you recharge it, and then you use it again. But after using Assault Reload, you have even extra effects. You grant himself a BP cost reduction of 5 for 7 turns. You also grant all surviving allies attack boost that will improve the damage potential by 20% for 7 turns. Well, this doesn't help much, but the BP cost reduction is really amazing. Moving on, the first skill is Bullet Shot. It's a B-Power attack that gives 15 points of OG God. You're not gonna use this. What you wanna use is 6 bullets. Yeah, that's the same attack that you were going to get for free. 6 hits of E-Power, but it costs 15 for blunt damage. So, if you choose to use 6 bullets, you're still gonna have to have 10 BP because you are reducing the BP cost to 10, and he gets 6. Meaning that he will need people to give him 4 BP in order to keep using 6 bullets all the time. Although not really, since he starts with 15 and he's going to use Assault Reload, you have some extra, but generally speaking he wants extra 4 from BP generation. If you have Lolo in your party, you already have enough. Okay, so 2 times 6 bullets, it's amazing. It's not better than Kihachi, of course, but he does have the defense down that will also help all other characters in your party. When they are doing blunt damage, they will be applying defense down. And he does have the extra force that makes him get super close to the damage potential of Kihachi. Now, he can get inheritances. If you want, for example, you can get that Convert Assault that can be used only once, and will give him another weak heat up for 50% extra damage, and we'll get an extra chase, call it Storm Chaser, that will recover his BP by 2. So instead of 4, he only needs 2. And then you can also inherit that very crazy Convert Weapon that gives him Anti-Material Shot that can debuff Endurance, and it has triple S power. You can still inherit the other bullets if you want. For example, if you want to go full blunt, I believe the better one would have been Dak Revolver, because this one gives him attack boost when considering everything that he can have access to, but this time he will be spending LP and losing time. I don't think this is good enough unless you only wanted damage from turn 7 onwards. The best inheritance, in my opinion, is Convert Assault to give him extra BP, or if you want one hit with big numbers, you can also use Convert Weapon. At this point, with any of those inheritances, I believe Lynn can even break through Kihachi's 1 and 2 damage, but not against the last one. Anyway, Lynn would have been 4.5 grade because he's easy to use and has very nice damage set up. The next one is Anya, and Anya has 110% dexterity and 117% intelligence alongside 105% agility and 101% will. As you can see, all these status are average, and she suffers from being hybrid, having only 72% endurance. If Global was not on AOS, she would have had buffs. She starts the fight with 15 BP, and then she grants all surviving allies every turn a lot of things. A heat up of 20%, 20 times per battle. So it takes her 20 turns to give you 400 damage increase for the whole fight. She also gives you a 5% defense up that also takes 20 times to have 20 stacks of 5%. It is very similar to Dragon Knight, but Dragon Knight triggers even faster than Anya, but Anya goes further with a lot more support. She will also be buffing all surviving allies status by 20% 14 times. Why 14 times? Because then after 14 turns, it becomes super extreme. So instead of 20, she will be buffing what I believe will be 40% value, because extreme is 35 and we don't have the data on JP. We'll also be buffing all status elements up to 14 times by very large, then it becomes super extreme on turn 15 wards. She was designed for super boss fights because those fights are super long and take more than 20 turns usually, especially the latest Oblivion, 7 heroes, and the Umbrella guy. So very nice setup, 14 times lower values, and then from there on out, a lot of good stuff. Now, by the end of a turn, she gets 3 BP, always, so she has 6. And then, at the turn 1 onwards, she will give an extra 1 for every 1 9 times. Okay, so she has 7, and she gives 1 for every 1. But then on turn 10 onwards, that 1 becomes 4. So she gets herself 10 total. At the end of turn 5 onwards, she will be giving 25 points of OG for every 1. And then on turn 15 onward, it becomes 45 points. See how many good stuff we get here? Amazing stuff. Just takes time to build. Made for super boss fights anyway. When she's attacked, she decreases damage taken by 40% at all times and will also heal her HP by around 1,500 every turn. Way too many stuff. As you can see, she doesn't heal the party. She's more about buffs, BP, defense, and offense. Skill 1 is single target Pierce and Sun. Yeah, Pierce and Sun. And it will have a chance to debuff the enemy's SGR by 15%. Luminous Blessing, we saw in an older version of her, as power attack that can give you a 25% defense boost that stacks for 3 turns. And then Splendor, that is a fast single target attack, triple S power, 15 BP costs a lot, but it will grant all surviving allies a guard up large that decreases their damage taken by 35%. And then this does not stack with other guard ups, you have to move to defense boost later. She will also apply an end of turn OG Gouge of 15 points So when she gets to giving you 45 and you use this, in that turn you're gonna get 60. That's quite a lot. Some characters already have 45 by themselves. Getting another 45 will already make them reach overdrive because you attack or get attacked and you're gonna feel. Okay, so very nice support. Anya starts the fight using Explendor and then just keeps using Luminous Blasting 2 times and then goes back to Explendor and stay like that. All the extra effects comes from passives and are not related to using BP. She is very easy to use, does not need squad synergy, just place Anya in a boss fight and she will help you a ton. You don't have damage with this character, even though you say, okay, that's a 3+ power attack, but she herself won't do that much damage. What you can do is also inherit Snow Block from her latest style, from the ads, and she will give you all surviving allies damage block for 3 times, for very specific situations in boss fights. You can also inherit Tropical Shine Vacation from her Christmas style. That will give an extra hit up, but also by the end of a turn will help you heal and also remove debuffs to ScherBR, Agility, Intelligence, and Charisma. So, very useful. Besides that, you could theoretically use stuff like Starlight Grace for emergency healings, or a Toildor that buff breaks. But I don't think you should do this because you want her to just give you more defense boost. You probably have someone else using buff breaks. Anyway, Anya is a very good style and useful for strong boss fights. She would have received a 5 out of 5 and would have been a meta character for some weeks. Next one is Shirei. Shirei is a buffer again. He has 123% dexterity, 111 intelligence, 105% will, and 92% endurance, again suffering from being hybrid. He would then increase the damage for all allies by 20%, and if they are all alive, you're going to increase by another 10, a total of 30. He will also reduce damage taken for all allies by 25%, and if they are all alive, by another 30. He'll get a 30% reduction extra just to himself. So a lot of support just passively. Then on the start of a turn, he will recover all surviving allies HP by very small. That's nice. Around 400. He grants attack boost of 15% and then 5 stacks of heat up. That has 10% volley, so a total of 65% damage improvement on turn 5 onwards. On the start of battle, 15 BP. Grants all surviving allies max BP increase by 10 as well. So they will already start with 30 without you having to cast. And on the start of a turn, he will grant all surviving allies the defense boost of large effect. This decreases damage taken by 25%. Only for that turn, will buff endurance and will by 20% and give an attack boost that improves damage potential by 20. So the defense boost is higher. Endurance and will buffs are all nice, but sometimes enemy will remove your buffs on start of turn. Skill 1 is called Vertical Volley. It is a 3p column attack with Pierce and Sun, just like Anya, that has a chance to debuff the enemy's will. This was made for Road Blocker, so that we can debuff will and then stun. He can also stun himself with medium chance, so you can see what they did here. The second skill, Elegant Flooring Strings, it's a single target attack with only E power and 14 BP cost. Yes, it's just so that you can attack and get some effects to trigger. Then he's going to grant all surviving allies an attack boost of 20% on max level, a defense boost of 15%, both stack for 3 turns. We'll recover all surviving allies HP by around 400, and we'll give them 7 BP, but not to himself. All other surviving allies. So he needs 14 BP to cast this, and we'll need people to give him extra BP to keep casting this. I'm sure he would have been changed in global for better, because all past Shireis were buffed. Then we have Summer Rain Shatter Arrows. That is a Pierce and Sun attack that attacks random enemies 4 times with E power, and then it buffs will by 25% with each attack. So it will be buffing your will by 100% just from this attack alone. But by using this, you are ignoring the second skill. This time Shirei gives you way more passively than anything else. You get extra attack, defense boost, endurance and will, damage reduction, and some extra damage. And that helps, but is it good enough? We have to see. because by attacking, he will chase 2 times. Triple light arrows, that is that attack that gives him between 3, 5 or 7 BP. It's super weak, just E power, but also light string recital from his first style. This is a single target attack that will buffing all surviving allies ScherBR, dexterity and intelligence by 15%. We recover his BP by 1 and has E power. So 2 pretty weak attacks, okay? Yes, but the thing is, both give you extra BP. Worst case scenario, you get 4. You are spending 14 or 15. It's still kind of far from what you need. And best case scenario, you get extra 8. And you always have the extra 3 for 11. So even on the best case scenario, he just doesn't have enough BP to self-sustain. He is someone that will rely on other BP batteries. He works super well with Lolo if you have, and Tsuna helps a little as well. Especially because Tsuna is also Pierce based. Anyway, he may not have enough BP to use his best attacks every turn. As for inheritance, Shirei only wants to use those that attack as well. For example, you don't want to bring Rainbow Flowering Strings or Ray of Hope. If you want to bring his old setup, just use the old style. But you can inherit triple light arrows in turns where you don't have BP for skill 2 or 3, just use it as inheritance. As for his first style, it can give him light string recital for more buffs to the squad if they are not removed by the enemy, or some rain light arrows that is a 7-hit attack with E power. Well, those are the best ones. Or if you really need, you can use Star Glitter that will remove debuffs from the party and cast Guard Up. The other attacks are not really great. Well, Shirei is interesting style, but wouldn't need buffs in global to really make an impact. I would say this guy deserves more of a 4 out of 5 than anything. Okay, let's move to the last character, Kihachi. It's good to end in a strong note because she's such an interesting character. Broke the game once, but Leah broke first, so that's okay, right? We have 132% SGR and 107% agility, alongside only 83% endurance and 91% will. If she was released on global before, she would have had some buffs. Okay, by the start of a turn, she grants all enemies this fragile heart for 16 times in one turn. 16 times because she likes to attack multiple times, huh? When they are attacked by any sort of attack, she grants this enemy defense down that decreases defense by 10%, lasts for 2 turns and stacks up to a max of 16 times, and will also debuff them by SGR, endurance, dexterity, intelligence, and will 5% values. So all status beside love and charisma that we don't care about in enemies anyway. This is really crazy. And when she lands an attack, she recovers 2 BP, grants herself a defense boost that decreases damage taken by 10% for 2 turns and stacks. On overdrive attack, she likes to buff all surviving allies status by 5%. When she attacks, she always chases 2 times with Lightning Crash 4 blades. This is a super slow attack that hits 4 times with E power, slash, and lightning damage. Yeah, once again, she is slash and lightning. These attacks will just scale because you are applying defense down and also endurance debuff to the enemy. So it's not like the 8-hit chase, but there's more to this character. We have a 30% damage increase at all times, reduces damage taken at all times by 30, increases damage again by 30, and can decrease damage taken by 40 if she resists, alongside a 37% chance to evade resisted attacks. On the start of battle, full overdrive charge, and starts the fight with 16 BP because of her best skill. On the start of a turn, she's granting herself an OG Gouge Up of 35 points for 3 turns. What does that mean? It means that on turn 3 onwards, she will always feel her OG Gouge. Always. So she already starts with OG Gouge, feel it on turn 1. On turn 2, you probably won't have overdrive. On turn 3, maybe, depending on the enemy attacks. And then on turn 3, 4 onwards, actually, you always have overdrive, because it charges by the end of turn. will also recover HP by around 1.5 thousand. Okay, so she doesn't have that many damage passives. Like all her versions, what matters is how you stack damage to the enemy. And she works super well with all the slash leaders, especially Bygone and also Khalid for lightning, but also Dolores for slash and shadow, but also works super well with someone like Diva. Skill number 1, Twin Lightning Slash. Single target attack slash and lightning 2 times with E power. This is something that also has a chance to debuff the enemy's STR by 15%. Not useful. The second one, Lightning Crash 4 blades. Single target slash and lightning attacks 4 times. This is the same skill that she chases with 2 times. See? Then the third one, Lightning Breaker 8-fold. For 16 BP, she starts with 16. She attacks 8 times with E power. And there is a 25% chance to trigger a defense down of 10%, but just for that turn. Okay, so let's compare this attack to her older one. It's 1 extra BP cost for the same sort of attack that just has extra chance to apply defense down. It's okay, you should not care too much about this defense down because it is just a chance, right? Now, this Kihachi should actually inherit something that will improve her damage potential. You can inherit Fierce Fighting Spirit if you want. That will give her extra OG Gouge. You would charge her on turns 2 and 3, but then she doesn't have any need later. But it also gives her defense up that increases damage taken by 15% for the whole fight and a heat up of 20%. It's okay to use. But you can also inherit something from her first style, Lightning Dual Slash, and I do believe this is the best inheritance. This applies Laceration. This is also Slash and Lightning. And Laceration, as always, has a 37% chance to apply a defense down of 35%. So it just limits to limit. The only thing is that it's limited by weak attacks. So use Laceration and then keep using her skill 3 alongside the 2 chases of 4 hits. You are going to attack only 16 times now instead of 24 times. You are attacking less, but you are doing at least similar damage alongside debuffing the enemy and improving the damage for everyone else in the party. Really crazy unit and very strong as well. I know many of the recent units are strong, but Kihachi, as always, deserves a 5 out of 5, just for fun. Kihachi, you are the last one of my characters review, so that's nice. Let's use her a little more before the end of the game and have some fun. She was one of the most broken characters in the game. Like I said, she was not the only one. There was Lynn before, and she came to make Lynn look like a joke and stayed on the top of the damage dealers for quite some time until recently. Anyway, that's the end of this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We will be playing the game a little more. We will have fun with these units. Well, say here on the comment section. We have new plans for the channel, and I'll be making a channel update pretty soon, probably tomorrow. So stay with me. Don't leave the channel. See you soon in the next video or live stream. Goodbye.